Hello, 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 what ho! Welcome back to another exciting adventure of Radio Free Anarchy and Travel Mateus Finlay. I'm your host, Travel Mateus. Just real quick, this is a continuation from the previous episode where I was responding to Adam's comments in the episode on Knowledge is Power. And so, I'm just going to pick up from where I left off before. Before we jump into it, if you are listening to the sultry sound of my voice at this very moment, please make sure you just push pause, smash the like, hit that Fonzarelli, and then make a comment and also share the content for more interaction in the comments. I'd love to interact with anything you guys are thinking. I've got another reaction coming up from Paul, Plain Reality. He made a comment, and I'm going to follow up with that as soon as I'm done recording this. So, thanks a lot for listening, and here we go.
Adam says, based on the terms you've set here, I don't think there's enough overlap in our thinking to find any agreement on what constitutes as evidence. But that's basically what my previous point was. I don't agree. That is to say, I disagree. Because it's not that we're going to disagree as what the evidence is. We have to agree on what evidence means. So I guess that's where this should stop, really. Like, what do you take as evidence? Or what is evidence in your mind? In my mind, evidence is physical information that can be presented in order to justify a claim that's being made. That's what evidence is to me. So I think that I'm going to assume that you would feel comfortable with that, but you're going to say that that doesn't apply to the area of the metaphysical. And that point is where we're going to get into a disagreement. But if we can stay in the realm of physicality and we get to the area of the evidence, and then you go over into this and say God, but there's no evidence, like, what would you offer as evidence? It doesn't matter if we don't have an agreement. What do you have on the table? What can you bring as evidence? Well, we don't have any agreement. That doesn't matter. Like, I want to see what you think. Okay? I think a lot of it comes from the way one defines the term God. Well, that's just what I was trying to do in talking about explanation or evidence. If someone had 10 people write down, define God, not one of those definitions would match. They wouldn't be the same. So then the question becomes, where did you get your information for how you're describing God? And where did you get your, and where did, it's all in the mind. I think this is what God is like. Because if it was more than just thinking, can you show me where it happened? Like, can you tell me, like, I was in bed and I was kind of dozing. Oh, so you were dreaming. Well, no, it's in your head. Or I was in the middle of the wasteland and a bush caught on fire and the bush was not consumed by the fire and there was no heat. You know? There's no reason why any of us should have an idea of God. God can mean many things and be interpreted differently because God cannot be evidenced by simply pointing at it as a separate thing. Who told you that? Simply because you can't do it, I can't do it, I'm saying that means there's no God. You're saying, no, there is a God. Just, I can't prove it. And being able to experience those things, Adam says, depends on the level of inner work that is being done within a person. What is the definition of the word God for you? What do you mean when you use the term, and what would you accept that anyone else might mean? I only use the term God as a swear word in the majority of my experience. But if I were ever to be talking about God, it's probably more in the Judeo-Christian monotheistic viewpoint of God is spirit, infinite, eternal, and unchangeable in his wisdom, being, power, holiness, goodness, justice, wisdom, and whatever, God is love. What is God to you? God is love. So then God's not spirit, God's not what is God? So yeah, so I basically, whenever I use the word God, I'm just referring to just this idea of a supreme being. But I only do that in discussing these philosophical ideas. Like, I don't talk about God as if judging or criticizing, like God shouldn't be this way. Like, I don't do that. I would accept anything in it. Look, as I said before, if I can demonstrate what I claim, it's not speculation. Right? So, if anybody wants to speculate about God, I would just simply go, like, where's your starting point? Like, why? And it's not to cross-examine, it's to understand. Because I might need to learn something. Or, it might be discussing some, like if a friend of mine talks about being in a mystical meditative trance and experienced God, like, great. Like, I'm probably never going to, and it's never going to be like what you just described. Perhaps. But, yeah, I mean, I'm totally open. It's not, if anybody wants to say what God is, my initial question is, who told you that? What is your reasoning to say that mind, collective mind, is not the same thing as God? Do you consider the mind which you have or are to be equal to all that is regarding knowledge, experience, ability, capacity? Are there varying degrees, or do you feel that you have and are all that is? If so, how do you account for limitation of your experience as the man ego known as Travis, or Travel Mateus if you prefer? I mean, that's a great string of questions. Let me start at the bottom and say that ego is a self-reference term. A self-referential term. It is a self-referential term. Ego is I'm talking about I. And every other person is an individual I. And we all have a interior existence that is in our heart, soul, mind, and strength. I hate you with my guts. I love you with all of my heart. You're blowing my mind. All of these words that are about abstract things that mean different things to different people. And so, as we're working backwards, so to speak, like not getting to God, I'm not starting with God, I was just starting with myself. And what the mind is, I have a mind, you have a mind, she has a mind, they have a mind. And yet we all go to another place in our minds that we call dreams. And we have experiences in those dreams that are very real in that dimension, in that arena. And it seems to me that that arena is the place where we can experience multitudes of existences, and I haven't time traveled, but I'm pretty sure that we would be able to. So time travel is almost, this would be interesting now, time travel is almost traveling back in time, but then also becoming a real playing character in that timeline. Like you can either be like this invisible ghost that just watches things, or you can actually travel back in time as a character and exist almost as an NPC unless you're lucid. So this kind of goes into what the movie Somewhere in Time was about. And Christopher Reeve, he just, power of suggestion. He was just telling himself over and over and over again, this is where I am, this is who I am, this is what and then he dreamed it. And he went back in time as a real player character. So I'm saying that I believe that our dreams are that matrix of multiverses that originate in a central processing unit. If you want to call that God, call that God. It's a CPU. And that CPU is pure awareness. And that CPU has simply seen fit to create an experience for itself through billions and billions and billions of instantaneous other experiences. Like I am the expression of the awareness in Travel Matthias. You are, and she is, and he is, and they are, and we are. We are all individual expressions of that one awareness at the same time. And it's, I would imagine it would be almost like firing on all cylinders. It would be almost like having a constant just orgasm. Just this intense influx of everything from pain to delight, and delightful pain and painful delight and afternoon delight. But to go back now and say that I'm saying the collective mind is not God, because the collective mind is not the God of the Bible. That's not a God. That story is not about a supreme being that created all things, and a third of the angels fell from the heavens, and the dragon swept his tail, and that's not what it's about. So no, the collective mind is not God. Because you have God and you have collective consciousness. Consciousness is a noun. Collective is an adjective. God is simply a noun. Like you have to have, I know what consciousness is. It's my awareness. I don't know what God is. I don't have a God. I have an awareness. I mean, if God means awareness, then okay, but that's not the case, is it? The collective mind is a deductive position that I hold, because I don't have anything else but my thinking about it to provide as evidence. And you can run your experience against my description if you'd like. To see if it makes sense. But that's my logical deduction of my mind, your mind, our mind, their minds, and I don't have experience of lucid dreaming. And let's say, for instance, like my son told me about a metaphysical experience he had where he was the one who named me Travel Matthias. And I don't remember having that experience, right? But he does. But I don't have experiences either with lucid dreaming where I've gone into a dream, realized it, stopped what was happening, created another avenue, and then experienced that, and then brought something back with me as evidence. So that goes into the next point where you said, how do you account for the limitation of your experience? My limitation is in the inability of myself to remember or to recall. And so just like when you wake up from a dream and you think oh man, what was that? That was a really interesting dream. You try to recreate the dream in your head and you can't put those pieces back together. That's the limitation I'm talking about. He says, it's also important to note how we define what real... It's also important to note how we define what real means. Does the word real mean strictly what is physically proven? No. That's my answer. Or experientially. Is our reality created and defined by our mind? Is it flexible depending on perception? Yes, it is flexible depending on perception. Our reality is created by our mind in so far as it is the repackaging antenna, right? It is the receptor of all of the data that is coming out, the light and the colors and the sounds and the smells. Those are all, in my opinion, real. Real is anything that I can experience. I'm sitting here in the quietness of my own mind, trying to think about a thought. That's real. That's reality. That's what's happening right now. No one else is experiencing what I'm experiencing. So many times when I was out on the Chesapeake Bay taking photographs and filming, I was the only one seeing what I was filming. No one else, and it was often very, very meaningful for me. So the word real is almost similar to the idea of evidence. Reality is that which I can experience with recollection. But even that goes only so far. I was just thinking today about a time when I was a child, and I was just like, can I just remember anything right now? Like, let's think. Okay, I'm 6 years old. I'm in the Matrix right now. 6 years old, and I've got 365. I've got 365 days in this box of everything I did, everything I thought, everything I said. So I was just sitting there thinking, okay, 6 years old. What do I remember? I can't remember anything. So I lost my train of thought and can't get it back. So yeah, I do think that real, physical, and empirical and evidence are all related in that, yes, real is that which can be experienced. Because sometimes our experience in reality doesn't match up with what we've been told reality is. And then we have these hiccups in our brain and don't know where the hiccup came from, or and we can't shake it. Like, we can be hiccuping for 20 years because of a concept that's always been troubling in your mind, but you can't really put your finger on it. All right, so I only made it through half of Adam's comments, and I'm going to stop right now because we're at 20-ish or so minutes. But if you've made it this far listening to the sultry sound of my voice, first of all, chef's kiss. Thank you. And please make sure that you smash that Fonzarelli, hit that like, leave a comment in the comment section, and then also share the content. If you have not already subscribed, what the Smurf is wrong with you? I have been your host, Travel Mateus. Until next time.